All right, welcome everyone to our Learning to Teach the Web with Laura Hilliger. She's a education person with Mozilla and has really kind of started this web maker thing, and it's really an exciting project. So, um, with that, I'm just going to hand it over to her and have her teach us the web.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I'm really excited that you invited me. So, as Brendan said, I am Laura Hilliger, and I work for Mozilla. I think that a lot of folks in OOE are actually pretty aware of webmakers. So I thought that what I would do is just give a quick background and try to like whiz through the slides so that we have some time to just chat and talk, and we can discuss anything I say, or if you guys have questions surrounding any of the work that's been being done around this, then we can have a discussion, or we can go deeper into the themes of the week. So, as I said, I'm Laura, and I've actually been teaching the web my entire career. Long before I came to Mozilla, I was actually teaching at a place in San Francisco, a couple of different places in San Francisco, teaching HTML, teaching a bunch of different creative software, and really sort of helping people just get good at computers. And the reason that I sort of fell in love with that is because when I was young, the internet was really, really new. Actually, it was invented, when I was 7, 8 years old. Um, and the first time that I heard a modem connect, I actually really loved the sound. It's a horrible like nails on a chalkboard sound, but I really liked it, and I thought it was so interesting that I could talk to whoever. So I got really into the web really early, and I was spending a lot of times in news groups and Usenet and chat rooms as a little girl, just talking to people all over the world. And at the time, of course, I didn't understand how powerful it was that I was having these conversations. But over time, I sort of started to see the web as much more than just sort of a bunch of information that I can access, and much more a way for us as human beings to connect. Um, so it's really because the web, I see the web as an infrastructure and a way for human beings to relate to each other. It's sort of how I got to Mozilla, because I was looking for people who sort of understood that, what I mean by a knowledge ecosystem, and what I mean by, needing to have basic skills to be able to interact with each other in areas that are not strictly technical. So I love to teach the web. I love to help people understand the web as something much more than a technical infrastructure, as something that underpins our very society. And I love working for Mozilla because although everybody knows Mozilla for Firefox, Mozilla is actually a really, really big community of people. And it's people who are working together to teach the web. They are people who believe that the web should be open, which basically means that the web and the information on it should be knowable, interoperable. It belongs to us, to all of us. And Mozillians are a group of people who really want to keep it that way. And so they teach the web to help other people understand that it's not just about taking information out, but also, putting back pieces of ourselves, expressing ourselves in some way. And so with that community of people and a nonprofit that stands behind them, our mission is sort of to help people understand what it means to have a knowledge infrastructure that is accessible all over the world and that everybody can participate in. And so we have a set of principles that really are about the continued health of the internet. And I will just say that in the notes, I pasted a link to these slides. So if you want to go back and click, these are actually live links over here. So you can go and look at these slides a little bit closer if I'm moving too quickly. So I saw on the OOE blog that this month you guys are sort of exploring the question, what comes first, digital literacy or digital citizenship? And I also saw that in the intro to this session, Brendan had written that literacy and citizenship are very much entwined. And I think that I think that because they are so intrinsically linked, they really have to be taught that way. And I think that the misconception about digital literacy is really that it's all about technical skill development. And this particular phrase on the slide, individuals must have the ability to shape their own experiences on the internet. Um, this is not just about broadcasting information. It's about thinking about things, understanding implications of what you broadcast or what other people broadcast, understanding relationships between different sorts of information, and understanding the consequences of your online actions in both your online and offline lives. So it's a lot more than just technical skill development when we think about digital literacy. And I know that a few weeks ago, Doug Belshaw spoke with you, and he was talking about the work that we're doing around the web literacy map. And I just wanted to review that web literacy is really about the culture, mechanics, and citizenship of the web rather than technical skills. So if you sort of get involved in the web literacy work or take a look at the skills and competencies that we're saying are web literate, and when I say we, I mean the entire community of people that is working on this, you'll see that it's really not just about coding, and it's not just about making web pages, but it's about helping people gain the competencies and skills that they need to really participate in society, and that's about reading and writing on the web in today's day and age, being able to participate in global discussions and think critically about the things that you hear in those discussions or that you find in those discussions. That's really what web literacy is all about. It's about the literacy part. So we really think that we need to understand the web, which means that we need to understand how computers work, yes, but it's also about the social skills that go into communicating in a time and place where we can be anywhere in the world and speaking with any number of people who all have varying perspectives. So it's about collaboration, it's about storytelling, it's about having conviction, critical thought, self-expression. I mean, these are all things that are really literacy skills as opposed to digital literacy skills or web literacy skills. It's really just literacy. But of course, in order to make life complicated, we have to have philosophical discussions where we name different groupings of things. So I actually really like the discussion. It's fun, and I love sort of picking apart this idea of like, what is digital literacy versus web literacy versus media literacy. I actually wrote my thesis on it, and while I was doing that, I did this gigantic, crazy graph exploring different definitions of these different terms. And what it all comes down to is really just, the philosophical definition of education, which is, living and participating in our world in a responsible way, with other people. So at WebMaker, the culture, mechanics, and citizenship of the web underpin everything that we do. And I actually should notice that skip slides yet. I'm still here. So we're really trying to meet learners where they are, and we're trying to zero in on individual interests and sort of help people make the things that they want to make and explore the ideas that they want to explore. We don't want to be prescriptive about learning. It's really about breaking out of expectations and helping people learn the things that they want to learn while underpinning some of these ideas around, culture and citizenship and of course the mechanics of the web. So we really promote open culture, we promote participatory and collaborative learning, and of course we promote individual responsibility. So I think that this group really believes in connected learning and connectivism and other progressive pedagogies, and we are absolutely in the same boat. So we're all kindred spirits here, I do believe. So to accomplish all of this, what WebMaker has been doing is we've been doing a lot of outreach on these topics, but we've also been building software to help make learning some of the mechanics of the web easier so that people can participate in the culture and the citizenship more fluidly. So we've built 3 tools, and I thought I would show them to you really quickly. I did put a link to WebMaker in the notes pad, so you can always go back and take a look at these tools. I absolutely recommend playing with them. They're really interesting ways to sort of look under the hood of what the web is. And anything you make, of course, share with us. I should put the hashtag in the notes. I'll do that later. But the hashtag we use is Teach the Web. And we have a bunch of different Twitter handles and stuff depending on what it is that you're interested in around the WebMaker universe. So the web is built in code, and this is something that really scares people. They think code, and then they see this big mess of confusing things that nobody understands. But the basic building blocks of the web are actually fairly simple, particularly HTML and CSS. They're not hard to learn, and actually HTML isn't even considered code, it's considered markup. So it's really just you learn a couple of things and you can make things on the web. And we've been developing tools to help people do that. So the first one I wanted to show you is called the X-ray goggles. And I'm going to load up your OOE13 page here so I can remix it. I've already installed the X-ray goggles into my browser. I have, if you look on the screen, there's Activate X-ray Goggles bookmarklet. And when I turn that on, what happens is I can actually use my mouse to see the different components of a web page. So it's highlighting HTML elements on the page. And you can do this on any page, wherever it exists on the web. And you can actually change what you see, because the thing about the web is it was built to be open, and HTML is open, and anybody can actually mess around with it. So what we do with the goggles is we just sort of, Laura's page, we built a bookmarklet that allows you to really easily change components of a web page. And in the process, as you're remixing, you're sort of getting a little bit of intro into what an HTML element looks like. So up here, it tells you what the element is, and there's some information about it, and then it allows you to change those elements. And then, of course, save it and publish it. So you can completely remix a web page and then share it with somebody else and have them remix it again. Or you can sort of make critical commentary on the content of somebody else's page. And this is just a really good way to get people sort of understanding that the web is really like Lego. You know, you can build a truck with Legos, and you can use the same Legos to build I don't know, a train or a plane or any other vehicle, and actually anything else, because the whole idea of Lego is that you can rearrange the blocks. And the web is actually like that. So with the X-ray goggles, it's a really low bar way to get people sort of playing with those blocks. And the hope is, and actually we've been pretty successful in seeing this and you know, understanding it, the idea is really that as people play with the blocks, they begin to learn a little bit, and they learn a little bit about the mechanics of the web. So when we sort of feel comfortable with the way that the blocks sort of operate with the X-ray goggles, you know, we help learners move to the sort of next step. And that's in our second tool, which I also have open. It's called Thimble. Thimble is a browser-based editor, and what we've been doing is we've actually been loading learning content on top of the editor. You don't have to do that. You can just open it up, and if you go to thimble.webmaker.org, what you'll see is very much the same as what you'll actually exactly the same as what you'll see here. And what's really cool about Thimble is as I write HTML, it actually updates the viewer as well. So you can make mistakes and you can try things out, and Thimble will let you know if you've made a mistake. So I just removed a piece of syntax that I need, and Thimble is just telling me, hey, you know what, you made a mistake. Maybe you want to take a look at that. And we just recently built in a new feature, which I'm going to show you because I love it so much. It's called the Collaborate feature. And what it actually does is it allows you to join something that I'm working on. So if you guys click on this link that I just put in the chat, you can come and play around with the same page, and I can teach you how to write tags. You can write your own tags, and you can see, I see a couple of people have joined in. There's also a chat in here. And this is called Together.js, and it's really cool because we can code together and we can learn together and we can explore together. I'm writing bad code because I'm trying to talk and write code at the same time. But the cool thing about Together.js is really it's this idea of learning together and exploring together. And this is a really powerful feature, and it's relatively new. So with Thimble, we have on webmaker.org, we have like stuff other people have made. And what's really cool about it is that you can actually choose something else. Let's find a Thimble. Let's see here. You can choose something somebody else has made. And what will happen is if you click the remix button, which I might have gone a little bit too fast, it will show you all of the code that was used to make that project. And you can actually go in and you can change somebody else's project and publish it new as if it was your own. So you can take code that other people have written and play around with it. And it's in this really low bar environment where if you make a mistake, you have a notice that there's a mistake. And if you need some help, then you can turn on that collaborate link and you can ask somebody else to come in and help you. So we have tons and tons of projects at webmaker.org, which I will go back to over here. So those are the first two tools that really sort of focus in on the mechanics of the web, but sort of underlying that is this idea that the tools allow you to be expressive and self-expressive, meaning, that because they're so easy to use, you don't have to learn a lot of the mechanics that make uploading web pages difficult. And you don't even have to buy a domain or anything. So anybody can use these tools. They're totally free and open. And you can save all of your work, and you'll get a user profile on webmaker.org where you can say, I really want everybody to see this thing, and you can share it with whomever you want. Actually, I'll show you that user profile. I'll just show you mine really quick. So the user profile is something that we're really going to focus on in 2014 to make this kind of more usable and interesting for people. But these are all of the different projects that I've made, and I can use this sort of as a landing page to find things, but I can also use it as a landing page to sort of collect projects that I want to share with other people. So if I'm putting together a bunch of content to teach, for example, privacy on the web, I can make this page reflect only privacy content or whatever it is that I want to do. So we have one more tool, which is very different from the first two because it is still writing code, but it's actually it's a video tool, and it's so awesome. I can barely put it into words, but the idea is that video on the web has always been sort of in a box, like you see on YouTube. There's a black box, and all of the content exists around it. And with Popcorn Maker, with Popcorn.js, what we've done is we've developed a JavaScript library that allows you to bring web content into video. So this video that's currently on the screen, I have used so many times to explain the power of popcorn in education. And I think I'll just put a link to it and you guys can sort of watch it later. But I'll just play the first couple of seconds of it just so you can get an idea of what I mean when I say that we're pulling content into video. I actually don't know if you'll be able to hear this at all.
Radio rookies went to 5 neighborhoods in the
So you can that I'm actually interacting with these maps. Of course, the video is playing, so I can't interact for long. And what's really cool, if we just skip ahead. So like here, this is a live URL that I can click and go get more information. And I really encourage everybody to watch this video later. What it is it's a group of kids that live in the Bronx. And about a year and a half ago, they developed a online story, a digital story, if you will, about the stop and frisk policy in New York City. And I've used this so many times because the entire video was created by this group of kids, as was the interview. All the media was collected together, and it's a really hard-hitting piece about this particular policy. And it was built using popcorn, which always excites me. So with popcorn, like the other content on webmaker.org, you can actually hit the remix button, and then you can take a look and see how something was made. And of course, you can also start from scratch. So I just hit the remix button on this fairly complicated popcorn. But if you look at the bottom, you can see there's a timeline. And the timeline is pulling in media from somewhere on the web, or it's just adding extra context. So this is a really good way to get people to sort of explore critical thought and, change context of certain pieces, make their mark, be expressive. And it's a really powerful tool. So those are the 3 tools. And I know I whizzed through them really fast, but it's really hard to teach tools in such a short amount of time. Of course, if you try out these tools and you ever need help, I put my email address in the notepad, so you're more than welcome to contact me. I know tons of links and places to get started, but if you explore webmaker.org and you feel like you still need extra help, like I said at the beginning, we're a community of people, and so we really try to help each other out. And you're more than welcome to contact us and get involved, contact anybody. Yeah, so I'm going to switch back to my slides. I went through all of these different slides while I was talking. So at Mozilla, we're really trying to bridge the gap between technology and education. And between the people that identify as an educator or identify as a technologist. We really want to help both groups of people have a conversation about teaching and learning on the web, with the web, and all of the implications that has for society, citizenship, literacy, etc. And so we're trying to get all these people who have different perspectives of what the web is, just talking together and helping each other in some way. And that's really what the webmaker community is all about. So it's about helping people become educated, and in the digital age, that has a lot to do with the web as well as different web tools. And so, the webmaker community, we have a lot of technologists and we also have a lot of educators. And so we've been creating open educational resources that are basically designed to be remixed. So everything on webmaker.org has a remix button, so you can always see how something was made. And so the entire community is really co-creating these digital and web literacy curricula. And we're sort of exploring this new definition of literacy and boundaries of, or perceived boundaries of technology. And we're all learning together in a world where technology sort of changes every 5 minutes, and what we used to know about teaching and learning is really changing because of technical tools. So we have resources. If you're interested in teaching the web, we have lots of stuff to help you do that. And we have these teaching kits, which are really, they're basically like blended learning guidelines or curricula. So, because part of the learning happens in the real world, this is not really, it's not just a digital community, it's a real life community as well. And we really believe in blended learning. We do lots and lots of different events. We have the Mozilla Festival, and last summer we did a big campaign called Maker Party, which we're going to be doing again this summer. And the idea is really just to encourage people to get together in the real world and online, play with the web, make things, collaborate, explore, learn. And it's really a big part of the culture piece, this idea that we want to get together and use physical materials to, like Post-its and tape, paper, pencils, really traditional, normal, everyday sort of materials to get together and explore ideas. talk about the future, talk about what we envision the web to be in 5 years from now, 100 years from now, and teach the web also in offline spaces. So it's really that teach the web, it encapsulates the culture and the citizenship as well as the mechanics. Again, I like those 3 words: culture, citizenship, mechanics. Maybe not in that order. But yeah, so we have resources for both online learning, offline learning. We have events in real life as well as online. And we're always encouraging people to share whatever experiences they have where, the web plays an integral role in the way that they're thinking about something with the greater online community, which is really big and has a lot of different voices involved. And so we never really stop learning from each other. So I should have switched slides again so you could read that while I was talking about it. But in 2014, our team is really aiming to sort of build out the educational resources that we have and align it with the web literacy map. So we have tons of really cool workshops and different sort of skills and competencies that we're teaching through these different resources, or that we're helping people teach through these resources. But we have some holes in that curriculum, and so this year we really want to take a look at what kind of learning pathways people might need to go through, and then align it with the web literacy map, so that when you go to webmaker.org, you can actually say, I want to teach X, and then find resources exactly for X. Right now you can find things, but it's a little tricky. So we just want to make it more clear that the web literacy work really underpins everything else that we're doing. And we're also going to be running training opportunities, so both to help people level up technical skills as well as to help people get more involved in the open community. So designing collaboratively, running participatory learning experiences, and other sort of professional development opportunities. Yeah, I think that I've kind of talked enough, actually, and I feel like I've been talking for like 30 minutes, so I'm going to stop really soon, I promise. I'll just end with the fact that we do live in a digital world. It's really, really, really big. This is my favorite slide. Mozilla is actually rather small, but because we're such a passionate community, we believe that we can really make a difference in how people interact with the web and what they sort of think about their opportunities on the web. And you're all invited to help. So, that was strange. What do you guys think? Do we have questions? I don't know why I'm sharing my, there we go.
There were a couple of
I
questions.
think there were some questions that were listed on the chat box, so we might want to scroll back up and run through the questions.
And I will apologize to everyone for not paying attention to the questions while I was talking.
That's all right.
Let's see here. See if I can find.
The first one was in the X-ray goggles. Where does the changed code get stored? Because obviously you're not changing the actual web page.
Right. So what happens when you access a web page is that web page is cached in your browser. So the browser basically makes a copy of it. And so you can change that copy, and that's what the X-ray goggles are doing. They're changing your local copy. So it's not actually changing the real life website, which would be illegal and mean. Still looking for
So can you
questions.
share that changed copy with somebody and they can see it on a different computer, or no?
I'm sorry?
So in the X-ray goggles, can you share that changed copy with somebody on a different computer?
Yeah. So if I, for example, if I change, am I still screen sharing? Yeah. So what I can do is, once I've made my changes, which I only changed these top 2 things, I can hit the P button for publish. and it will ask me to sign in. I'm already signed in, but then I can just publish it. And what happens is the code is put on a Mozilla server, and I can actually share my make with anybody else. So if I put this here, I'll put it in the chat. So now, if you click on that link, you'll see the same thing that's on my screen. So it's actually making, I'm making a copy of the code on this page. And something that a lot of people don't realize about the web is that you can always see the code of a web page. So in Firefox, if you right click and choose View Page Source, you can actually take a look at exactly how a certain web page is built. And this works on any page on the web. So this is all of the code that is making up your page here. And so the code that's rendered is always accessible to whoever it is that's viewing it. Let me scroll back and see if I can find some questions. Brendan likes that we changed standard to map. Yes, I do too. Thanks, Roz. I made the graphic with the CSS, JavaScript, and HTML about last year sometime. I liked the red dress too.
I think it's a very clear-cut graphic that explains the concept straight away. So with your permission, I'm not quite sure, is that link available that we can kind of just copy and remake that slide and use it in some other presentation?
Absolutely. So this in the notes, the zythepsary.com/mozilla/presentation/OOE. That's all of these slides. I'm actually running it locally just because I feel like when I do presentations, if I run my slides on the web, then they're sure to not work. I've had it happen before, which is why I always run my slides locally. But if you go
and your slides are made just on PowerPoint or Prezi?
They're actually using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
Okay, so if we wanted to copy it, we'd have to copy the individual images and stuff.
If you're interested in just that particular image, when you get to it, you can just right click and save image as.
Okay.
But if you feel comfortable with HTML at all, it's a lot of HTML because it's a lot of slides. But if you feel comfortable with it, you can also just take the code, and there's code comments that should help a little bit. But let's see if we can find that slide.
I'm one of the people, I told Doug Belshaw that, you know, I'm one of the people who still hasn't quite crossed that line from being afraid of code to being comfortable with code, despite the fact that I have the word technology in my job description. So I'm a fake technologist.
No, not at all. The thing about HTML is that when it's a lot of HTML, it looks very, very intimidating. But if we switch back over to Thimble, there's, oops, that's wrong. There's actually only a couple of tags that you have to know, and I'm just deleting all of the other ones. So these are the 4 tags that you have to have in an HTML page for it to render. The opening HTML, and in HTML, if you open something, you also always close it. So the closing one is with this little slash, and this is the opening tag. And then in between, that just tells your computer, I am writing a web page. And then the head tag is basically like the brains of the web page. So it says, this is stuff that the computer needs to know, but not necessarily the user. So stuff that would go in there is like, you know, keyword metadata, or stuff like if you have metadata that you want your page to show up on Google, that kind of stuff would go in there. Also, scripts would go in there. The title is actually this on the top of the browser in the gray part where, like if you look up here, this is the title of the page. So that's whatever you make it. And then I was about to write Google. I don't know why. And then the body is the actual content. So if if you can sort of learn that syntax, then when you start looking at other web pages, you just kind of level up. Like you look at smaller web pages with just a little bit of content, and then level up once you feel comfortable with the code within. So, and WebMaker has tons of like really cool starter projects where it has like a bunch of comments and can sort of help you work through it. So don't be scared of code. That's the whole point.
I think the past 5 minutes of you just explaining those 4 basic things was the best basic explanation I've ever heard. If I can just cut that little piece of that video out and recycle that over and over again, that would be awesome, because a lot of people don't get that very basic first overview. I think that was very, very useful. There was a question that I put on there, and I just want to fast forward to that because I have been using Popcorn actually. I had several faculty who I service who I taught them how to use Popcorn, but the one problem, and maybe the Popcorn version that I used before was the beta version, I'm not sure if it's been updated since, is there any way to then re-export the Popcorn video back out into YouTube instead of having it as a Popcorn file?
Yeah, so you can embed the video on any web page, but you can't actually upload it to YouTube because what's going on behind the scenes is we're writing JavaScript on top of the video. And so YouTube won't allow you to put JavaScript on top of a video.
So basically, but if you wanted to then flatten the video after you're done with putting all that stuff in Popcorn, is there yet a way to do that, or is that not part of the whole point of Popcorn?
Right. It's kind of counterintuitive to the point because the idea is that if you're pulling in data from the web, and that data changes. So for example, if I have a Popcorn video and I pull in a Wikipedia article, I'm not actually copying the Wikipedia article and pulling it into Popcorn. It's embedding the Wikipedia article. So that means that if somebody goes and changes the Wikipedia article, it will change in my Popcorn video as well. So it's not actually bringing in any of the content. The content still lives on the web somewhere else. So in order to flatten it, about the only thing that you could do would be to record it, using a screen share program or something, or a screencast program. You could do that and then you could upload it. But the idea of Popcorn is actually bringing information into video that the user can then interact with in some way. So like if it's a link,
Okay.
but it's flat, then you can't
No,
click on it anymore.
you answered my question because I actually kind of guessed that was the case. The hiccup that I had was because I had listed Popcorn being used as assignment for a class assignment. And so when the students were to submit their assignments, they may have tried to embed it inside of the LMS that we are using on campus, and the problem is then probably the proxy does not allow for embedding of Popcorn. It only allowed YouTube embedding, and so in the end, a lot of the assignments had to be graded on an outside browser, just a separate screen, which then made it clunky and difficult for the faculty, and then they kind of just dropped the project, and the next semester is like, I'm not doing this again because it requires me to go into an external browser. I can't grade this assignment inside of the LMS the way that they would have been able to grade, let's say, YouTube embedding or something like that. So it just became clunky, but it can still be used as an assignment, but I probably just have to build the entire course differently where I train the faculty to not be tied into the LMS for everything.
So it sounds like with that particular use case that what's actually going on is that the LMS is not allowing you to use an iframe, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. Blackboard does not allow iframes. And so half the problem is...
I was just going to say, one solution could be just to, instead of embedding the Popcorn into the LMS, just having the students link to it. Or are you saying that if the faculty has to like click a link and go elsewhere outside of the LMS, they don't want to do that?
Well, it's also a learning curve that, a lot of faculty are not comfortable with technology at all, and just having them think out of the box and be willing to try doing an assignment that is using a tool like Popcorn. Just to give you an idea, the way I designed the assignment for that particular course was traditionally it was an assignment where the students had to read several chapters and then do an analysis and then do sort of a 500-word double space paper. But traditionally it was one faculty to 20 students, but because the problem changed with budget cuts and all kinds of stuff, what happens is that instead of having multiple sections, that section became one lecture class with 150 students with one professor and two TAs. Grading of 150 papers is no longer feasible, and so also wanting to make the pedagogy more fun and interesting. So instead of just reading the chapters and writing a paper, I managed to persuade the faculty to change the assignment, and instead the assignment was create a 30-second video that synthesizes your thoughts on those chapters. And using Popcorn, they brought in live media, and the overlays that were placed on top of those videos became the floating data that goes on top of it became the analysis. And so it was very multimedia rich and fun to grade and fun for the students to do. And we actually managed to reduce absenteeism to 0, and course assignments that semester, we had 100% submission. Nobody defaulted on any assignment submission because it was actually fun to do the assignments. But the problem was the grading and the ability to pull up those Popcorn videos. It was clunky and it was quite difficult because and I think it's connected to one of Brendan's question, what happens when you have different devices, and then we also had the issue of different browsers. And I think at the time when I did this, that was the very first time Popcorn came out. It was still in beta version, so I haven't actually used it since, because it was, all those issues. The faculty decided not to use that assignment technique again the next semester, which is kind of sad. But maybe I might be able to persuade some other person to try this technique if I know that the platform of Popcorn now works better.
So Popcorn Maker has, without a doubt, taken huge strides in the last 6 months. I've sort of been involved with the Popcorn project since the beginning, and I can actually, if you guys were using a black interface, then it was really bad. And it's come a really long way. So it might be a matter of just maybe trying again.
But have you heard of people using it in the way that I mentioned it, Laura, using it as an assignment pedagogically for higher level thinking, where students use the Popcorn as a mode of creating course assignments?
Yeah, we have actually in our community, we have some really awesome Popcorn assignments that people are doing to do like critical annotation and critical thought pieces. And I mean, there's lots of educators that are exploring the use of Popcorn in that way, and people really do like it, which is really encouraging. So I guess I would advise, I think that the fact that it couldn't be embedded into the LMS is probably twofold. Number one, if you were using the Popcorn beta, then it was probably not super awesome. And the other thing is that, like, a lot of times LMSs, whoever sets them up, they turn off certain features to avoid, people breaking things. And if turning off the iframe is something that whoever the IT department that set up the LMS, if they did that, then it makes it really hard to share content within the LMS. So, but that's really interesting.
Yeah, well, I'll probably take a look at it again and see whether we can I'll try it one more time and see whether it worked, but it looks like it's been really upgraded. You're right, the
Yeah.
interface was black when I used it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a really, really old version. Popcorn, like from the back end, has been completely rewritten since then, like completely from the ground up redeveloped, because the beta version just wasn't great. And I'm actually looking, I know there's this drummer kick, that's what it is. There's this video that some folks from the National Writing Project made. Um, And that might actually just be inspiration. So we won't watch it. I'll just put it in the pad here. But it's sort of the idea is to remix this video. Like the learner is supposed to remix it and point out the common usages of different techniques that people use in advertising. So it's really about annotation, but it's actually kind of a cool make. And then, I mean, if that inspires you, you can, of course, see how it was built and remix it and make it more relevant to your own learners. Did I hit all
Great,
the
thanks.
questions? Or, oh, I see a question in here, the date for the summer maker party. We haven't set the dates yet. We've been going back and forth, what's our launch date, but it'll be all summer long. Last year it was from June 15th to September 15th. And so the actual launch date, I'm not sure yet because we haven't decided, but it will be June, July, August, September, where we sort of go full force for Maker Party. Did I hit all the questions?
I do have one question.
Maybe not.
Popcorn, does it have to be a video that's already on the web, or can you upload a new video?
So you would have to upload your video to YouTube or Vimeo to use Popcorn on top of it, because what Popcorn is actually doing is it's not messing around with the video at all. So like if you pull in a video from YouTube, it's just referencing that video exists at YouTube. It's not actually copying it at all. So what's happening is Popcorn is really just writing JavaScript on top of a video. So it has like at the top of the code, it says, hey, computer, I want you to reference this video that lives over here. And then all of the content that you bring in is referencing content somewhere else on the web and just written in code. And then if you type a note on top of it or a link, it'll actually write the HTML code within it. It's actually really interesting. You can, inside Popcorn, if you click on the project link, you can click, oh, I haven't saved this project, so let's just save that. But once you've actually saved a project, there's this view source button, which actually shows you the code for the Popcorn piece. So like for this one, for example, I should have chosen one with video because this one is actually referencing a soundtrack. But all of the images that are used, they're all referenced in the code as opposed to being copied, which is kind of crazy. Here, this is a YouTube link. So it's just pulling in the
so
YouTube
just
link.
question, if we wanted to pull in a video, we upload it to YouTube first. If we wanted to pull in a piece of audio, how would we do that?
SoundCloud? Or, I mean, you could upload a piece of audio.
So basically, everything has to be in the cloud to be put into Popcorn.
Well, it has to be on the web.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, because the entire idea is that there's so much stuff on the web, instead of like always downloading everything and then making something new and then uploading it, if we keep things separate, then people can actually remix how components work together. And that's actually, I mean, that's sort of this idea that the web is Lego. That's sort of where it comes from, because if everything, I'm not saying that everything should be separate or anything like that, but if things are separate, then people can put them together in different ways. It's like taking
But actually, the analogy of Lego, to me, still makes it seem as if you're making copies of it. I think the way you described it, for the first time I see it from a different point of view. I understand it better. It's not Lego. It's actually Popcorn is just pair of glasses that allows you to see different things that exist in different places all in one plane. It's Legos actually are physical things, whereas popcorn isn't even physical. It's just referencing different things. So it's just magic glasses that takes different viewpoints and puts it together in one plane as different layers. So is that a better way of describing it? I mean, the way.
I guess the reason that I use Lego as a metaphor is because with Lego, you don't actually have to copy the block, right? Like if you have 4 red blocks and you build an airplane out of 4 red blocks, you can take I mean, it'll be a bad airplane because you only have 4 red blocks, but you can take those exact same 4 red blocks and build a truck or whatever, right? So it's the same blocks, just constructed differently. And that's what the web is. So every single web page is using the same basic building blocks. And those basic building blocks are these HTML, head, title, body. And the only difference is the way that people put the blocks within the body together. So, I mean, there's a difference if I have a H2, just a really simple example. And H2. Oh, sorry, made a mistake. H1. Okay, so if this is my web page, the smaller hello is at the top, and if I just rearrange the blocks, I actually rearrange what the page looks like. This is a really simplistic example, but I didn't actually have to change what the blocks are, just change the way that they, the structure of them. So that's why, and Popcorn is actually just code. So Popcorn is not copying any images or, downloading any video or anything. Everything still exists wherever it lives on the web. It's just that people build different things that are using the blocks in different ways. Does that make sense?
It makes it quite interesting as a concept. I'll sink that in and see if I can find an analogy. I get the building blocks Lego idea, but the concept that those things exist by themselves and you didn't touch the originals, that part needs an analogy by itself. So that's okay.
Yeah. No, I
because that is a concept that not everybody understands. You understand that, Laura, because you understand the web, but I teach people who are tech phobic, and that part needs an analogy by itself. And I haven't, today was the first time I understand how popcorn works, even though I've been using it all this while. So I'll dwell on that. If I think of an analogy for that part of it, or if you do, maybe we can email each other. That because that is the stumbling block I have with a lot of tech-phobic people who don't want to use any thimble or popcorn, any kind of live online. Even just using Google Docs is really hard for me to explain to them that it lives in the cloud. It lives on the web. It's not an item that got downloaded to your desktop. It's hard for a lot of people to understand that concept.
Yeah, this is, I mean, this is really sort of a very, very basic concept that's hard for people who are techies to sort of explain. I think a good one is maybe using like the postal service as an analogy. So like on the web, a URL is actually like the postal address of a particular thing, right? So like, for example, this image, the little thimble icon, I just right-clicked and said, show me the postal address. And what it's telling me is that this particular image lives at this address. That's what a URL is. It's like a pointer.
That part they understand, but to understand that there are online, programs or apps like this thimble that can take those URLs and can take those separate objects that live out there and have it have it code-wise be put together in one interface for us humans to be able to see it all in one place. That is a concept that's really hard for non-tech people and tech-phobic people especially to understand. So that's the kind of people I work with daily. How do you get people who don't get that basic concept to trust it enough to
Mhm.
to use technology to deliver the content expertise that they have. So
I guess, I mean, my question is, what do they understand about other web pages? You know, like
they don't.
any.
We should talk on another day, Laura. You deal a lot with people who are not tech phobic, but people like me, and I'm not sure, Brendan. I see you smiling because I'm guessing you also have maybe some people in your workplace, and Laura doesn't have this problem. You're so lucky. People like me, our job is to be that bridge between people like you and the rest of mankind who have not yet crossed that boundary line to understand it. I understand the web enough that I don't have that mental block, but it's really challenging to find ways to teach the web to people who don't even understand what the web truly is. And so
Yeah.
that very basic understanding is kind of overlooked a lot because people are already at high levels of job titles, and they are successful and they are renowned academicians, and yet just understanding some basic things becomes a stumbling block for them to be able to fully immerse with all the affordances that they could be using.
Yeah.
So that's where
Yeah,
people like I
it's
come in.
definitely a tricky time because we sort of we live in a world that's sort of between two times. You know, like there are still a lot of people that don't understand the basic concept of what the web is. And then there's like this whole new generation of people that they've never not had the web. And so sort of riding the line between those two groups is probably really tricky. Is definitely really tricky.
Yeah, I
For
was
better
laughing when
or
you said
worse.
that sound of the old internet that you listened to at 7 years old. Brandon, how old were we at that point? Definitely a heck of a lot older than 7 years old.
Yes, a little bit.
I think my kids were already born at that time, and I was. Anyway, this has been a wonderful hour.
Yes,
And we
thank you
definitely
so
will
much
be
for
sharing
inviting
this
me.
video because we know a lot of our OE friends were unable to join because it's during
Yeah.
this particular time of the day. But I know there'll be a lot of people who are looking forward to watching the recording of this session today. And there are probably a lot of people who might want to ask you follow-up questions as well. So if you're okay with that, um, just bear in mind you might be hearing from some people.
Okay, great. Yeah, I put my email in there and my Twitter handle. I'll put the hashtag Teach the Web, which I also monitor. And yeah, every people are welcome to answer questions, or if we want to do a follow-up forum discussion or something like that, that's totally fine too. Thank you so much for inviting me. I had fun. I hope I didn't say anything really, really stupid. I put
No,
my
it was
foot
all
in my
great
mouth a
stuff.
lot. Also, Brendan, we didn't talk about purple unicorns.
No, well, next time. Um,
I'm for sure.
but maybe you can join
I
us
missed
on.
that one. Purple uniforms, Brendan, you have to tell me about that.
Nope, no, it's a secret.
And yeah, and thank you so much for working with me with the time. It's
Oh no,
it's always
it's great.
hard to schedule things living in Europe, I have to admit.
I was hoping that we could get some more of our European friends because I know they've kind of been left behind. We have a few, but you know, I still.
Well, apologies from Stefan in Germany. His wife is in the hospital, so he's unable to join us today.
Mhm. So well, I hope his wife gets better soon. So
Yeah, so do
he's
I.
our host.
Yeah. Actually, this server space on Adobe Connect is his, so he's one of our anchor online people as well.
And do
But
you know where he is in Germany?
he's in Augsburg, if I'm
Mhm.
pronouncing that right. Yeah.
Just curious. It's far away.
Okay. Well,
Well, thank you so much, and you know how to find me. Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciated it and had fun too.
keep in touch.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know if you find, a
Great, thank
secret
you,